Google Search Console, index coverage, report, excluded, page with redirect. In this video session, we're going to take a look at excluded, page with redirect. What does it mean? What can you do about it? How to troubleshoot it? And so on. So let's press on page with redirect. When we see excluded, that's the status. What Search Console tells us here, it's saying Google search engine has excluded these URLs from its index. That means these URLs and the content within them are not within Google's index. Page with redirect means when Google requested this URL, the server response code was redirected. It could be 301, 302, and so on. Your best bet to troubleshoot this is always triple check the current sitemaps you've submitted to Search Console and say, you know what, do I have any URLs within the sitemaps that has been redirected? If so, you need to remove them from your sitemap. If not, when you're looking at all known pages, and this will be the case for almost every single website submitted to Search Console. Every single website submitted to Search Console, if it's a website that's been around a while, will have status excluded, page with redirect. Let's press on a sample URL. Then fetch as Google. Fetch and render as Google. Here the status should be redirected. That means this. Let's go and highlight the URL in question, copy and visit. But I'm going to zoom in here because I want you to look at the URL pattern here. And let me now hit enter on my keyboard, as in visit that URL. And keep an eye on what happens to that URL, how it changes. As you can see, it has been redirected to a different URL, because in this example it has the keyword SEO within the URL. Make sense? So that's what the Search Console page with redirect means, as in Google is not going to put this URL in its index because it has found server providing a redirection, and yet Google will put this URL in its index. That means you can now copy that redirected URL, go to Google and search info, colon, and paste the URL in question and hit enter. And here you should see some results, because now this is what Google is saying. Here's the information we have for this URL, because that's a different URL. And let's do the same test on this URL. Let's copy that and let's do info colon search, paste that into Google and search the search box with this pattern here. And let's see what happens. And Google is saying at this moment, okay, last year we've seen a URL like this, and as far as we're concerned, this is the URL we have placed in our index. But look at the difference. I'm asking Google, I'll do it in a new search so that you see. I'm saying to Google, show me the information you have on this URL by searching Google with advanced search query. And this the excluded URL, but Google still has information about it. Let's search. It has the information on a different URL, because this is the URL I want Google to see, because this is the URL that is within my website sitemap. So we can actually search this within the sitemap. So it's in there, it's in the sitemap, and the correct version is within the sitemap. Index coverage, status excluded. Page with redirect does not necessarily harm your website. All you need to do is check the sitemaps. Make sure that the sitemaps do not have URLs that's been redirected. Because if it is, then you're giving Google a merry-go-around, and then it's not gonna like that. Because redirected means here's the URL Google, and when Google says okay, let me go and see that URL, and Google says okay, when I try to see that URL, I've been redirected somewhere else. Okay, page with redirect means that. Once again, all you need to do is triple check the sitemaps you've submitted and make sure that they do not have URLs redirected. While here, to make Rank Your Fans website ranking better, let me pass on some insights in terms of best practices. Remember to do this. Your website can be requested through many different scenarios. As we can see, this is HTTPS version of my website, and it does contain www. Now let's imagine this scenario. So I'm going to do this so that you'll really benefit from this tutorial. And I'm going to request 4 different versions, in fact maybe even 5, to show you the best practice for Google. And let's do this. Okay, now I've got 4. Now let me also give you another example and put a / onto this one here. So now I'm going to switch tabs, and I'm going to zoom in so that you see the difference. This is the first URL. This is another URL. As you can see, it doesn't have that S in the HTTP version. And this is yet another URL. And this is yet another URL. And this is yet another URL because it has that /. Now, let me go and refresh all of these and visit each different URLs. Let's refresh, and let's visit this one. And look where it's gone. Now, let me go and visit this one and see where that goes. And look where that went. Let me do the other one for this URL pattern here. Let me visit that. And look where that went. Once again, let me now visit this one. And let me visit the one with that / as well. As in this one. Because look what happens when I do that. Now let me go and switch between all of them. And switch between all of them so you see what happened. All of them went to one single URL. How is this accomplished? This is accomplished by using .htaccess rules. And that's what you need to do as well. Because each different sets that I've shown to you is actually different in terms of Google. That means with your Google Search Console, if it's a brand new website, simply submit the only version, and that's okay. But if it's a site that's been around a while, then you need to make sure that Google can also see different versions. For Search Console, the best practice, as in Google recommends, that you submit different web properties for different versions of your site. As we can see, we've got HTTP version here, we've got HTTPS version, but both of them don't have the www. And basically 4 different URLs should be submitted to Search Console for websites that has been around a long time, okay? understand the fact that each different examples I've shown to you, in terms of Google, they are different URLs. That means your internal structure on your website should be using a consistent URL structure. That means there is many websites that has www URL linking without www. If you've moved site to HTTPS, there is non-HTTP version, it's non-HTTPS. And if you have links like that on your site, Google sees them, and then Google is redirected to different parts. So best practice then is to make sure that your website uses consistent URL patterns for linking purposes, because each and every website on internet has internal linking, and the best practice for Google, as in Google guidelines, tells you and I to use only consistent URL structure. Okay, so keep that in mind, because then you'll enjoy better Google rankings. As I've said, I'll show you how I've accomplished that. I'm using cPanel web hosting, so I've looked into my WordPress installation. There is .htaccess file here. I can download it so you have a backup, and then you press edit. Within it, because I'm using HTTPS, I'm saying, you know what, when the request is made to a URL structure without HTTPS turned on, make sure you turn it on. Okay, so that's, if you're using Apache server, your website is built on Apache server, then you need to use .htaccess rules. I'm not going to show you exactly because each setup will be different. If you're using WordPress, you can utilize, best bet is to search for html.htaccess nightly, because then you have a template, boilerplate, and within it you'll have www redirection as you force www at the beginning of the URL, all that stuff, right? So that is how that is accomplished. At the end of the day, make sure you serve only one version of your website to Google, and only analyze the one that you're using to avoid page redirect issues in the Search Console for the website sitemap you've submitted, because you may be able to see excluded because it's a page with redirect. And if you're scratching your head thinking, you know what, that website URL is in my sitemap, and yet Google is showing a page with redirect for the sitemap you've submitted, as in for the URLs you've submitted. And if you're unsure as to why that's occurring, is because your website is having the sitemap URL patterns within the sitemap. Because if you look at the source code of a sitemap, let's imagine that's a link, image link, but that's a URL, HTML URL. And what if this didn't have that /? If that's the case, then it's being redirected. Makes sense? So you need to make sure that your website doesn't serve different URL patterns, especially for Google. I thank you very much for learning with me. If you gain additional insights in this video, please do give it a like and share it, and I'll talk with you in the next video session.